Welcome to Stepping on the Mat podcast, episode 010 with me, Aaron Martinez. Today's guest is a two-time NAIA women's wrestling champion, a two-time Iowa High School girls state champion, a UWW Junior All-American. She is currently the head assistant wrestling coach at Simpson College in Iowa. Ladies and gentlemen, my special guest, Emma Cochran.
Yes.
Welcome, Emma.
Thank you so much for having me on today.
Well, you were just telling me that you're on your summer tour of podcasting.
I am a little bit around it.
I'd like to say I was the first, but no, you've already been doing it, and that just tells me that you're doing well, right? You just graduated in 2022.
Yep. No, 2023. I just graduated in April from Grandview.
Oh wow!
So, yeah.
Like quick path, right? That path is being seeded properly.
Yeah, I graduated April 30th and then moved to Indianola for Simpson May 1st. So it was very quick turnaround right there.
Wow. So tell me how that came about? How you went from graduating and getting this offer?
Yeah. It was a really crazy experience, I guess. Everything just fell in line. And I feel very, very blessed with it. But a little joke aside, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I loved coaching. I had done a lot of youth volunteering, a lot of clinics, camps, and I had always thought in the back of my head that having my own youth club would be something that I would want in the future. But I never thought that it would even be possible to coach at the collegiate level. I didn't even know that was something that I would ever have the opportunity to do. But I'm in a pretty serious relationship, and we had been talking, and he's living in Davenport right now at the Quad Cities. And so I had applied to a couple of the high schools out there. But other than that, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I knew coaching was in the picture, but not knowing how big of the picture it would be. And talking to Trevor, my boyfriend, I knew that, okay, I'm probably going to move out with him in Davenport, the Quad Cities.
And what's Trevor doing out in the Quad Cities?
Yeah, he is at Palmer Chiropractic School. Okay. So he actually wrestled at Grandview. That's where we met. And then he's at Palmer Chiropractic School in Davenport.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's what he went to school for.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. He graduated from Grandview as kines, and then
and you're kinesiology as well?
I am. Yes.
Excellent.
So,
dang,
yeah,
I bet those are some cool conversations.
It is. It's cool to hear him talk and know a little bit about what he's talking about. Obviously what he's doing is a little bit more intense, but
Sure. So how is he applying that? What makes it different?
Well, so it is very kines based, but everything I like to say is on steroids out there. So it's not just learning about, muscles, but the TD, what makes up a muscle, what does this muscle do, how, every little tiny thing about the spine, and it's just very detailed, I guess you could say. But I'm kind of speaking for him here.
Sure.
But I think his goal would be to be a chiropractor, a sports chiropractor, and stay involved in wrestling and just help athletes, because that's, him and I's experience as well. But
sure. Isn't that important?
Super.
To we beat on our bodies so much with combat sports.
Oh, yeah.
In general. And you got to learn how to take care of your body as well, too.
I was making a joke. I was showing a move, and my elbow, knee, and hip popped, and I was like, no, I'm still young, I promise. But my body feels it a lot. But
Have you had any major injuries?
Yeah, I have. So my senior year of high school, it was not, women's wrestling wasn't sanctioned yet, and my senior year was the first time that it wasn't sanctioned. I can't really remember the details, but it was going to be the first women's state tournament.
Yeah.
And the week before, I dislocated my elbow, and I wasn't able to compete. But that was kind of probably the worst one that I had. And then
Did it happen during training or?
Yeah. Well, I was at a duel and just posted. Just went right into it.
Got to learn how to break fall, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of one of the common injuries that you see with wrestling.
Yeah.
We always have this discussion, what injuries happen in jiu-jitsu, what happens in wrestling.
Uh-huh.
I think the post is one of the ones. There's so much force coming down, and you want to stay disciplined to try to break that fall, but sometimes it's just
gotta take
angle and it happens. And
and I will take that experience, and then I ran it into college, and I was like, just don't let him take me down, and then we won't have any injuries.
Yeah, let's take care of that right now. That's awesome. That's a great way to think about it.
But so that was probably like my major one, because it actually it took me out of my sport for a very important moment of my life, like senior year, like the first state tournament, and then I'm not able to compete.
Yeah.
And then I guess within like my college, just like some small injuries, just not like keeping up, I guess. Like I sprained my MCL in my knee, and I thought like the world was over.
Well, MCL hurts really bad. With like anything, if you're like lifting, like this with your leg, like trying to kick your sheets off at night or something, feels miserable. And that's how but you can walk on it.
I'd be like fine, and then all of a sudden, like I would just move wrong. And,
yeah.
But I after that, because it was like just smaller, but I was like, after that injury, I was like, I have so much more respect for those who have the ACL surgeries and go through the whole process.
Yeah, I've never torn an ACL, but MCL, both knees, multiple times.
Yeah.
You know, but it doesn't feel great.
Yeah, but those are, other than like, you know, just the smaller things, I think those were kind of the two major injuries that I've had that really kind of affected what I was doing in the moment.
So Trevor on his pursuit,
yes,
right, and
where I was going,
is he still like wrestling or staying active with anything grappling based?
Not right now. I think chiropractic school is very consuming with everything that you do. Yeah. He spends a lot of time just, you know, doing the whole process of being in a doctorate program, but then also taking care of just his own health. So I think right now he's just focusing on that with intentions or hopes of like giving back to the sport in a different way, and if that's, you know, helping athletes with chiropractic care. But
I'm sure he's passionate about it too as well. That's why he's still pursuing it.
Very excited for him. Yeah. But I guess kind of like going back to what I was saying was on like my career journey, trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. Trevor and I had the conversation. I was going to move out with him. We had everything planned out. I was going to coach at a local high school out there, and then figure out a job during the day and off season, etc. And then Jeff McGinnis reached out to me and messed up everything. No, I'm kidding. But he had messaged me, and he was just like, hey, Simpson is having like a full-time assistant position. I would really, really like if you would apply. And instantly it was like, oh my gosh, like, what an amazing opportunity. Like this would be,
isn't that how it always happens in the movies?
Right. It's literally like a documentary pretty much.
Yeah.
But, so I'm from Sheraton, Iowa, and then lived in Des Moines for the past 4 years. And then Indianola, home of Simpson, is like right in the middle too. So it was like, oh my gosh, like, an opportunity. It wasn't like nothing was set, but it was like the opportunity of coaching at the collegiate level was like so crazy.
And with Jeff McGinnis.
And with Jeff. And the fact that Jeff McGinnis, a man, you know, with his status and credentials, reached out and asked me to apply for the position, like, that's insane. So I applied, and then we had been kind of like chatting, and he was like, hey, why don't you just come on a visit, see if, because I was still a little like, I literally had my life planned out with my boyfriend, and then now like this opportunity comes and it's like completely different. But I like went on a visit because I also wanted to make sure that I needed Simpson to be a good fit for me if I wanted to be a good fit for the Storm Wrestling. So I went on a visit and just kind of got to meet the athletic director, a couple of the other faculty members, coaching department, and I like instantly kind of fell in love with the program. Not just like the women's program, but just like Simpson's athletic department. Excuse me.
You're good.
But everybody was like super, not just nice, but excited. Not excited for me, but just like Simpson's future. They just have like a lot, you know, I think coming in their direction, And right then, like going home, I like called my mom and she was like, well, what do you think? Because I think a little bit, she was like, this would be perfect. And I called her
Of
and
course, yeah.
I was like, this, I could definitely see myself not just, you know, accepting this position if I got it, but loving being in this position. And then, you know, a couple weeks later, I finished my wrestling season, got my interview, and then Jeff McInnes, you know, sent me that email and it was like, hey, we'd like to offer you the position. And after talking to Trevor was at the very, very beginning, I think, I don't want to say he was upset, but he was like, oh, shoot, like, I thought, like, you know, like we were going to, like, be finally, like, not have to long distance. But when I called him and told him that I was offered the position, it was nothing but, like, I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited for everything that you're about to do. And that was when I knew, I was like, this is it. So I accepted it. And then I started as soon as I graduated. So that's kind of what I've been doing the summers, doing, like, the small tasks, getting me kind of enrolled and not enrolled, but, like, adjusted to Simpson and just the process of learning what it takes to recruit and, you know, set up everything and just get everything figured out. So that's kind of what I've been doing. And that's how the whole process of me becoming the assistant coach at Simpson.
So like now you got to change your whole athletic wardrobe. From
You're
going to leave the Viking gear and,
I was,
and go be on the Storm, ride the Storm.
You know, like once you're a Viking, you're always a Viking. I'll always hold on to that and everything they gave me. But I made a joke, Jeff was like, hey, like, your gear finally came in. And I was like, perfect. I can stop wearing Grandview stuff.
Right.
But no, I'll always be a Viking and appreciate what they gave me. And I think that there's a lot of things that I can take from, you know, their successful program and, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, everything, and take that and make my own type of coaching style, my own. I mean, Simpson's women's program just finished their first year, so they're still new. And something that I, you know, thought about a lot was I was on that first team at Grandview. I was the very, very, we were called the first, and I was the first, and I'm going to be coaching the first at Simpson. And I would never go back and change anything from my experience, but there are definitely things that I want to, like, do differently for my athletes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I really appreciate my experience, and I'm blessed to have every opportunity that I've had, and I'm excited to go forward and give those blessings and opportunities to other athletes. So
yeah, that's awesome. That was a lot to take in right there. That was a documentary on its own. All right, Joes, that's it for the podcast.
We're done.
We're done. I want to go back to your relationship. So, I mean, it sounds like this is really something that's really important to you in your life. And so, like, what are we doing to, like, keep that going if you're going to be here in Indianola and then he's going to be out in Davenport?
So Trevor is originally from Spokane, Washington.
Really?
So, and then he went to Clackamas and then came to Grandview, and then that's where we met. The men's and women's wrestling team at Grandview were pretty close, so we had just been friends, and through having similar classes, build a relationship and everything. And he's truly, like, he's going to watch this and it's going to hype his head up, but he's truly my best friend, my number one supporter. I couldn't imagine, even though he is 3 hours away, our relationship is like he's right here with me right now.
That's cool. Just
the way that it's not, of course, like any type of relationship is hard.
Sure.
And, but I know that, oh gosh, I even hate saying this. I know that he's the one because it's easy. And of course we have our rough patches, but being 3 hours away isn't any more difficult than when we were together.
Sure.
And of course, obviously, like, we miss each other, but I think we both do a really, really good job we both have super busy schedules, but we both do an equally job at making effort to, you know, support each other. And it's not like, oh, well, I drove here last weekend, so you should drive here this weekend. It's just like whatever is able to happen is done.
Well, I think that connection, the constant connection, makes it easy to make plans. Like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and you just get it going.
Yeah,
so, that's awesome.
And One thing that I would tell my athletes is you don't have to date a wrestler. Like,
No. We're going to keep it in the family.
Right? You don't have to date a wrestler, but you need to find a partner that understands your priorities. And with wrestling, especially collegiate wrestlers, I think it is important. When we were in college together, that it was like a conversation that we had, but like, I love you, but you're not my number one priority right now.
Yeah.
I'm a student, I'm an athlete, and then I'm a girlfriend. And it was okay because that was how his was too.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing.
I think that's always been kind of like been preached in the wrestling room.
Yeah.
So when I grew up, there's like, girlfriends are a distraction, man. Stay focused, sprawl.
Yeah, like take down. Yeah, exactly. But that's something that I'll always kind of, I'll even say like I truly think that I got lucky. I don't think everybody gets somebody like Trevor, I guess. But it is really nice to have somebody that understands what I'm going through. When I was cutting,
and he understands the depth, like the real part of it, the texture of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that was like we've like woken up and been like, I have to go cut weight, and it's like, okay, I'll come with you because I have to too. So just like little things like that, and it's just somebody that understands like not just what you're doing, but also understanding why you're doing it. And I think that's important. Like I said, when I talk to my athletes, when I talk to my little sister, I have a 12-year-old little sister, it's like you don't have to date a wrestler or a person that's in what you're doing, but you need to find a partner that understands why you're doing something or doing what you're doing and accepts that.
Yeah.
Because then that's when they become a distraction, is when they don't understand that. So
you got to have a partner that reciprocates you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
You guys are you guys have kind of like had some of the same adversities and have that understanding and know about sacrifice. You're got a little bit of time distant sacrifice.
Yeah.
But luckily it's still in the same state.
Yeah.
Soldiers, when they get deployments, they lose their family for a year at a time.
Exactly.
So,
and that's what I'll forever say is like, I'm blessed to have him only 3 hours away. He could be back at home 26 hours away. So I'm not too pressed about it. We make it work, and I think it's like how you said, it's sacrifices on both ends without keeping tabs on who's sacrificing more or less. So yeah.
Well, my last guest, you said you watched a little bit of the episode with TJ Moen on it, and that was something he talked about too. Is like as soon as he got engaged to his wife. He took the job down in Kentucky, and that's far away. And so that obviously led to different challenges too, but they made it and they're still here. So,
but right now what I'm just trying to do is get Trevor to fall in love with Indianola just as much as me so we can figure it out. But that's my plan right now, is just
that's cool.
Getting him to love it. But
so when did you meet Jeff McGinnis?
So
I actually wrestled him when I was in high school. I wrestled him at a freestyle tournament.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, my grandma told me a funny story about when my dad wrestled in the state finals. Jeff McGinnis was wrestling in the state finals, like 2 mats down. So, I was that's
awesome.
Kind of
Where'd your dad wrestle
at? He graduated from Moravia High School, which is like between Centerville and Albia. And then we moved to Sheraton my junior year of high school. So, 2017, 2018.
Wow.
But yeah. I other than just like knowing him and like watching him wrestle, watching him do everything, I guess I didn't really meet him until the process of interviewing at Simpson.
Wow, what a
yeah,
that's cool. Needle in the haystack, maybe, or just your name's well known, but like just
I don't know, but feeling very blessed, I guess.
Yeah, I feel that from you from over here. Nice job.
Thank you.
So I want to know a little bit more about, you mentioned your dad was a state champion, and I know that you mentioned
state runner-up, sorry.
State runner-up, and your brother was a state champion as well, right? And so maybe tell me how you got into it. When first you said, I've heard you say in another podcast that you kind of like were brought into it. You know, I think about my kids, how many times they've been on the mat with me, and that's really cool. So I'd love to hear about your beginnings.
I say this a lot, but I was definitely born into the sport of wrestling. this isn't like a fact, but I wouldn't be surprised if one of the first places I went as an infant was a wrestling tournament. It wouldn't surprise me. My dad had a youth wrestling club called Southern Iowa Mat Club, based out of Moravia for a majority of my childhood. And so I would ride the school bus to his little mat club, and that's where I would go. And then it started with just me like messing around in practice. It was fun, just doing the warm-ups and like the conditioning when you're that young. So I would like come to his club and I'd practice, but I wasn't really competing. And then we had a youth tournament in Moravia, and I asked my mom, I was like, hey, can I do it? And she was like, I don't think she was like all in, but she was like, okay, like it'll be fun, like a good experience. Sure, you can do it. And I won the tournament. And I actually remember.
That's awesome. You know what? I'm going to change my guest list. Everybody that I've talked to thus far, when they talk about their first tournament, they always win, and I'm the guy that didn't win. I'm the guy that got last.
Hey, but that's okay, right? Everybody's story looks a little different,
yeah.
Right? But yeah, and that definitely, I remember like the trophy was like a bobblehead.
That's awesome.
And I like when you're that, I don't remember how old I was, but I just remember.
It's the coolest thing in the world. Yeah.
Oh, I have a little bobblehead. But that was kind of.
Did it have a boy on it?
It was a boy. Yeah.
Should have been thinking who was in the house.
I was like the only girl at the tournament, but oh well. But yeah, that was kind of like my kickstart of like falling in love with the sport. It was a little different as you started growing up, and girls started getting a little meaner, and boys got a little bit more immature. And I didn't really want to wrestle anymore. I kind of wanted to.
Can you explain that a little bit more? I'm just curious because I have like many age groups in my jiu-jitsu room, and I always see the fluctuation of different things.
Yeah. So I think it was just, well, like I remember going to a sleepover with 10 girls probably, and no, like they were nice to me, but I remember being like, one of the girls being like, you can't stay the night because we're all going to basketball practice in the morning. And I was like, I live like a block away. I'll walk home in the morning when you guys go to basketball practice. But I remember being so young and like that kind of hurting.
Yeah.
Like I can't stay the night because you guys have basketball practice. Not because I have wrestling practice, but because they had basketball practice. And I think just as you're growing, like, especially from a small school, all my friends were, doing basketball, dancing. And I was a dancer. I grew up dancing as well. And it was, like, hard to see all my friends bonding over basketball and not really having that bond.
Yeah.
And I think that we see that a lot. Not just like on the girl side, but also guys in basketball and wrestling when
those two sports have always been competitive. Who's going to draw the funds? Who's going to...
Yeah, exactly. And so when I, started getting into like that, where all my friends were doing one thing and then I was doing that one thing, I wanted to be with my friends.
Yeah. And
I never like wrestled like consistently as I was young, but it was just something that I loved and I would do it. Like I'd go to practice, I'd, do whatever. But when I got to like middle school, I want to say I started doing basketball. I started like crushing on boys. So it was like, all that stuff as well. But
I'm seeing that in some of my young ladies that are about 13.
Yep. Yeah. That's about probably my age as well when I went fully like.
Sure.
Other sports, I guess. And then I remember like my freshman year of high school, I did not want to play basketball. I just didn't really like it. I didn't have a passion for it. And though I wasn't wrestling, like I didn't even think I wanted to wrestle, but I just knew I didn't want to play basketball. But my mom's like philosophy was like, you need to try it. Like it's your freshman year of high school, like, you don't know, like you need to be, my mom's very like, you need to be active, you need to be doing something. If you're not going to be playing a winter sport, then you need to find a job or something that you can do during that. So I was like, well shoot, I don't want to work, so I guess I'll play basketball. And it was just like the same thing. I like played a little varsity and I was literally told, don't dribble, don't shoot, pass the ball. So I was like, this is just kind of, I just didn't have a love for it. And so I had kind of like, after that season, I finished the season and I was just like, I'm just not going to do that next year. I'll just find a job or whatever I need to do. And then
plus that, I don't know, maybe the culture is what you didn't fit into.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't really remember, but I just remember just like not loving going to practice.
Sure.
And just like not even really loving games. But that summer, my brother wrestled at Fargo and Nationals, and my dad, I was actually on a missions trip or church camp or something, I don't remember, but
Cool.
I was on a mission trip in Savannah, Georgia, and my dad called me and he was like, there's like 6 mats out here of strictly girl wrestling. And I was like, girl wrestling? Only girls? Like, they're not wrestling guys? And he was like, no, like, it's like all girl brackets, no guys. You could do this. You should do this. And I think Fargo's like, July. And whenever I got back, so like late July, I was in Moravia's wrestling room just with my dad, like working on how to hit a double leg, what's a single leg, how to hit a stand up, things like that. And my mom is such an amazing woman, but she didn't want me to wrestle like guys. And understanding, I feel like there's a lot of parents that probably feel very similar.
Yes.
And so the idea that like we kind of talked to my mom, my dad and I talked to my mom, and how it was going to go was I'll train in the room with the guys, but I wasn't going to compete on the team. And then season started, and they didn't have a 106 pounder, and I was just like walking around like 104. And so the coach was like, okay, well, why don't you just like get on the roster and then take forfeits for us, because we don't have a 106 pounder, you don't have to wrestle anybody. And I was like, okay, like that's fine, like I'm training every single day, at least I could take some forfeits. But so I would take forfeits. And then I remember showing up to like a duel and my dad coming over to me and being like, hey, there's another 106 pounder, so you're not going to take a forfeit. And I was like, okay, like that's fine. And he goes, but hear me out.
And your dad's a wrestling coach?
Yeah, so he was him and then Denny Whitlow were the wrestling coaches at Moravia. But he was like, hear me out. This is his first wrestling year too, and he hasn't wrestled a match before. And so he was like, do you want to wrestle? And I was like, where is he? Let me see him. Let me see him before I. And I was like, okay, like, don't tell mom, but yeah, I'll do it. And I won. And it was like this rush. It was like a high almost. Like I got it and I like instantly fell in love with it. And I don't really remember. It was probably ugly, but it was something like that was like the moment that like I fell in love with the sport.
Yeah. It's that rush. There's the highs and there's the lows.
Oh yeah. So, well, that's something also was like, I was training for like freestyle season after season. I wasn't supposed to wrestle that year, and I ended up doing a couple tournaments that year, and I did well for a first year wrestler. Wrestling guys.
Mm-hmm.
I did okay, but I was excited for the women's season. But yeah,
was you and your brother on the same team?
So
or are you too far apart?
He had graduated, but yeah. So we didn't wrestle on the same team, but when he would come home for like Thanksgiving, he would like drill with me and stuff. But yeah.
So how many years older is he?
So when I was a freshman, he was a senior. So 3 years.
That's cool. He set the stage. Your dad actually like got the seed started, and then that's awesome. So what's your brother doing now?
So my brother is in Omaha, and he was a college pastor for college students, and then he actually now has a podcast for Christians.
Well, give him tell me how we like listen to this. What's it called?
Yes, it's called Glory Be. So it's like brand new. I think he has like 2 episodes out, but cool. I think his mission, now I'm once again speaking for him, but I think his mission is just to show Christians and to show people that Christianity is fun. It's fun to be a Christian. And I think that he's doing like a really, really well. Like I know that he had posted on his story that it hasn't been released yet, but I think I might be like spoiling here, but I think he like got to interview David Carr, who is a well-known wrestler, and well-known Christian, and just talking about how like to live a life that you enjoy and have fun and do all the things that everybody else is doing around you as a Christian.
Right. I don't know why. I could think back when I was young and maybe having some pushback about going to church early in the morning or something. You're like, oh, come on, I don't want to go. Right. But like as you grow, you learn the promises, right? And the power. Right. It's not just fun. It's fun to be around other Christians and you guys can connect and stuff like that. But like there's power.
Yeah.
There's power to it. And there's things that we've been promised over time spiritually that like people like you said you were like on a missions trip in Georgia.
Yep.
And like there was some things aligning in your pathway that was, a blessing.
Yeah.
It's like,
100%.
hey, you're doing work for me. I got you.
Yeah.
And that's proof. The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
So that's fun, energetic, but it's also super powerful to know that you have this connection to something that's beyond you, that's like helping you get to where you are wanting to be because you're disciplined and, and you understand relationships and the importance of having an upper hand.
Yeah, I think everything happens in life for a reason to align you exactly where you need to be. And the director of your life is God. So
yeah. Well, I wish your brother luck on his podcast, and everybody
so
listen to mine. Go check out Glory Be.
Glory Be. Yeah.
Glory Be. Go check that out and check out those first 2 episodes, and maybe if he gets some time when he's down in this area, I'd love to have him on, and we can chat about God, and we can chat about wrestling and whatever else.
Jiu-jitsu
and
too.
some jiu-jitsu, yeah.
Jiu-jitsu.
Oh, he's been doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell me. We kind of had a longer discussion, like as we was mic checking, but share with me what you were telling me earlier about, your interest in it and then your brother's experience with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Somebody had just asked me if I was completely done competing or if I was going to compete at Opens. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to kind of hang up my shoes wrestling so I can really just focus on my athletes and, just really dive into them. But I still have that wrestling mentality. I'd still want to compete in things. So I had been interested in getting into jiu-jitsu because my brother had just recently, the past 2 years, had really started getting into competing in jiu-jitsu, and he really, really loves it. And he always like talks to me and is trying to like, he even was like, you should move to Omaha and come to my jiu-jitsu gym. And I was like, I don't know about that, but
yeah, but he feels it, he feels that joy from it, and that's cool. So have you tried it at all?
I have never tried it. Boom. I didn't even, though I knew about it and I liked the idea of it. I hadn't really even watched like a match until my brother started doing it.
So have you seen him compete?
Yeah. Well, so I was always competing when he was competing. So I've never watched him in person, but of course, like, my mom and dad are those people that are like, you're doing great, honey.
So are they good cameramen? We'll come back to the jiu-jitsu part because I don't want to, I'm not going to leave that on the side. But is your parents good, like, videographers? Or are you like getting the match where it's like
shaking? No, I'll always laugh at this. So my state championship. So when I was in high school, it was like AAU.
Yeah. Yep.
So I remember my senior year, they had like AAU high school women's state wrestling, and my finals match, I was up winning. I don't remember like the score or anything like that. And my mom, like the mom starts shaking and it's like off over here and you hear them screaming and they're like, oh,
it's always like the tilt. It's like when they're starting to pull back, it's like they get you don't even see the match anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It was like it was like down on her feet, but I'll always give her crap about it. But she, I got thrown to my back and she stopped recording because she thought I was going to get pinned. And then I came out, got like a reversal.
You didn't see it, didn't happen.
Yeah, we went into overtime and then I won. And I was like, I'll never get to see like that cool comeback because my mom stopped videotaping.
Oh, that's awesome. So back to jiu-jitsu. So are you, is your brother working in the gi, like the kimono, the uniform, or is he doing it just in the no gi?
No gi right now. I don't know. He competes in just like the no gi, the
Yeah, just like in a rash guard,
yes,
shorts.
rash guard and stuff like that. But I don't know exactly how his gym is. If they do, I don't know. Or if he wants to do that. But
Yeah. What do you have interest in learning both the gi and the no gi?
yeah, my velocity, excuse me.
That was from the cup. The cup.
Bounced my brain around a little.
Yeah.
But is just however I could learn and grow in any way. Yeah. I'm gonna take that road however it is. So yeah. I wouldn't mind learning gi. I wouldn't mind competing no gi. It's just whatever is available and whatever opportunities I can take. So
yeah, you'll do well in it. The gi, obviously, there's handles, right? There's things to hold on to. I think that's when I get wrestlers and they get the gi on, they always want to take it off. One, they're like, it's so hot, right? And the other thing is, they have to negotiate the fact that somebody can like really hold
on to you,
and that gets really frustrating. And you can use it for strangles and arm locks and stuff too, to be able to trap somebody down with their gear, their clothes. So yeah, that's awesome.
Exactly. It's exciting. Yeah, I'll definitely have to swing by because it is something I'm really interested in, just even learning about, even if it's something that I don't pursue. I definitely just want a better understanding of how they cross over into wrestling and just, learning more about it. So I'll have to swing by.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you didn't start actually competing in wrestling until you were your sophomore, and then you went on to win 2 state titles. I know it wasn't sanctioned then, but it's still the state tournament. It'd be the same. You just changed the name on it, right? Yeah. What was that like? I mean, people always, look to the people that have been wrestling since they were little. I mean, you were on the mats, obviously, but not competing actively. So what's that, I
think I'm going to take this time and just, give a shout out to my dad, because I would not be where I am today without him. I can't even, I could almost get a little emotional because he has been such a huge part of my wrestling career. He was obviously my wrestling coach all the way through, even back when I would do it when I was little, and then all the way through high school. And it was almost a little hard for me to go off to college and be kind of leaving my dad,
Yeah.
But I think with him, he was he knew how to coach me. And he instantly fell in love with women's wrestling. I'm very thankful because from the first day I stepped on the mat, he was teaching me freestyle because he knew that I had the potential to wrestle in college before I even started. And I can't thank him enough for believing in me before I even believed in myself. But starting wrestling, it's I read somebody, I can't remember who made the post, but somebody had made a post, and under the caption it had said wrestling is such an unforgiving sport. I remember that's kind of a weird way to explain wrestling. And then I got to thinking about it, and I was like, it's so true. Because when you step on that mat, though your coach is in your corner, helping, keeping you aware, you are the only person wrestling that match.
Mm-hmm.
Your training partner is out there, not out there. Your coach isn't wrestling the match for you. Your parents aren't wrestling the match for you. It is you and your opponent. And everything you did shows. If your nutrition wasn't on, it shows. If your conditioning wasn't on, it shows. If your technique isn't on, it shows. Mm-hmm. And it is such a unforgiving sport in a way because it's humbling.
Yeah.
And wrestling was definitely, starting wrestling was a very humbling experience because I was a young female in a very vulnerable state of my life, trying a sport, a very, very tough, intense sport for the first time against guys.
Mm-hmm.
And though I did have my success, I also obviously had the lows and the failures, and something my dad always stressed was you win and you learn. It wasn't you win and you lose, it's you win and you learn. And that was something that I will take to the grave with me, because.
And what do you think he meant by that?
So yes, it was verbiage. It wasn't, hey, you shot way too, there was too much distance between that shot. It was, hey, Monday, let's get into the room and let's work on closing that gap between you and the opponent, so you can hit those shots, stronger. It wasn't, oh, you took a crappy shot. It was, hey, let's get into the room and let's try to improve, our technique on our sweeps. And I think and that was exactly it. It was every single time I stepped off the mat, win or loss, it was like, hey, what'd you learn?
Yeah.
What'd you learn? What do you want to get back into the room and start working on? It was, my dad was really, really good at like the 2 goods and then the 1 improvement. It was like, hey, way to stay in your stance that whole entire time. Hey, good hand fighting. Let's get into the room and let's work at, clearing ties. Or, it was just like verbiage on how he coached me that I think took me to have the success that I did, because you have a lot of pressure on you when you're a female wrestling against guys. Every tournament I went to, it didn't matter where I was in the bracket. When I was on the mat, I felt like the whole entire gym stopped to watch me.
Yeah.
Allie Reagan, said one time, she even said it almost felt like you were a circus animal, because when it wasn't common for girls.
I totally get that.
And when you stepped on the mat, like, people wanted to watch you.
There comes the purple zebra.
Yeah. And the scary part is some people wanted to watch you win and others wanted to see you lose. And that was really, really tough. And I'm thankful for that, because I think that has made me who I am mentally and like emotionally today. But I remember, like, I had won my first tournament, and as they announced my name, an older gentleman had like screamed out and was like, go back to cheerleading. And my grandma was like sitting by him and leaned over and was like, she's doing that tomorrow. And so I think like having...
And that was probably a pretty good impersonation of her. I could see it.
Yeah. And so having that support system, from the beginning really, really helped motivate me, like, keep going. And it's, though I feel very, very blessed to have that support system, it's also breaks my heart in a little bit knowing that not everybody has that support system.
Yeah.
True that. There are a lot of girls that would love to wrestle, but will never have the opportunity to, because they don't have the support system like I did. And so I'm just forever blessed for that. But I think, like, from the start, even though when I started wrestling, I never thought I was going to be a state champ. And when I won state, I almost didn't know I was going to wrestle in college. And then when I wrestled in college, I didn't know I was going to coach at college. But my dad always believed in that. So when I did, just in 3 years, win state and then become a college All-American and all that, it was like just knowing that even when I didn't believe in myself, I had people that were believing in me enough to get me through what I was doing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I appreciate you being a spearhead here in Iowa for women's wrestling, because I hear what you're saying about, your perspective on, like, you almost felt like there was like this circus going on, right? And like you were the center of this attention. But like, why do you think that is? Why do you think that like there's just people that didn't want to see women's wrestling? And I know that's probably a very small group of people now, but like back then, as you were a kid, maybe even seeing that,
Yeah, I think people are scared of change.
Sure.
And that's okay, but in some extent. So I think when, us pioneers of the sport were kind of coming in, it was something new. And I don't think anybody really understood like the extent that I can love a sport just as much as your son can.
Sure. But what I'm saying is, do you think maybe it's like for some time, not the hecklers, not the people that just want to be jerks out there, but like just people that maybe at the masculine side of the room is saying, hey, I want to protect girl. In the military, that was kind of a thing too, you know?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
We tend to, like, as men, come down a tone to like protect or to like.
I just had I had just had a conversation with somebody that I'm working with at Simpson, and she said that, you know, when her son had to wrestle a girl back in the day, he almost felt like it was a lose-lose situation.
Yeah.
It was either I'm the guy that beat up a girl, or it's like I'm the guy that lost to a girl. He gets made fun of
because he lost to her.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And I understand that. And that's why I fought so hard for women's wrestling. Not just so our young females can feel comfortable in the sport, but also so our boys can too.
Yeah.
Because I totally get that, especially, you know, going through like middle school and high school. I understand that. And that's why I think it's so important and why it's so exciting to have a women's sport, not just for our girls, but also our boys.
Well, I think that breaks down I think that kills that right away when you separate the two and let women have their side and men. It kills that because now there's no longer, we don't need to, now it's like girls go, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's having women's wrestling or female wrestling sanctioned in Iowa is so amazing. Not just for women's, but the whole sport in general. And I understood the people that even heckled. I understood it. I was like, you have your feelings, but I just want to wrestle. I don't care if it's a girl or a guy. Honestly, I don't want to wrestle your son. If you want me to be honest.
Yeah.
But I just want to wrestle.
Yeah.
And this is the only opportunity, the only chance I get to wrestle. So I understand your feelings. But instead of tearing down women's wrestling, let's help women's wrestling so we can grow the sport and we can separate it.
Yeah.
That's kind of how like my philosophy was going through high school and going through that was, I don't want to wrestle your son.
Yeah.
I want women's wrestling. But unfortunately, somebody has to wrestle your son to get women's wrestling for your daughter.
Right.
So.
Right. Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. So, you took 2 state titles. Did you get to go wrestle at Fargo?
I did wrestle at Fargo.
So that's where the vision started, right? Dad called you and was like, "Hey, there's an all girls bracket down here."
So I started my sophomore year and I wrestled at Fargo for all 3 years. And I made the blood round all 3 years and lost. So I never All-Americaned at Fargo. And that was hard because I was so excited, you know, going into it. I felt confident.
It's the biggest tournament.
It's the biggest tournament. Right. And another thing my dad always said was, you know, you could be the biggest fish in the pond, but there's always monsters in the sea. And I felt like Fargo was like
the sea,
my chance to see where I fit in the sea, in the ocean. And learned quick that I had a lot of improvement to go. But, you know, so I wrestled at Fargo for 3 years and lost in the blood rounds all 3 years. And then I went to college and I got to wrestle 2 of those 3 girls that beat me in the blood rounds, and I beat them.
Nice.
At the collegiate level. And I think that really shows what it can do to put yourself in a position where you're around people with the same goal as you. Because, you know, in high school, I had all my other stuff. I played several sports. I was from a really, really small town. I did softball, I did dance, I did cheerleading, I did track, I did I don't even know if I did everything. Because you had to do everything.
Sure.
So I could really dial into wrestling for a small period of my life. Where when I got to wrestling, it was like, not only is it my life now, but everybody in my life also has like the same goals, the same priorities, and you really, really get to like dial in to what you're doing. And so I want to say like my freshman year, I remember at like our freshman year end of the year banquet, I got like.
Are we talking about college or
college?
High school?
College. Okay. I got most improved. I remember it kind of being like, oh, this is like the award that like they think, oh, like she needs an award, but I don't know what award to give her, so I'm just gonna give her most improved. And then but I was like, whatever. And then I watched my matches from Fargo, and I was like, I was so bad.
You're looking back now.
Like like because I don't necessarily want to say like I was bad, but compared to how much improvement I had made in 1 year, I was like, it's almost hard to watch me wrestle like my matches back when I was in high school.
Yeah. So moving from high school to college, you're going from dad being coach to new coaching staff. So we'll maybe talk about your coaching staff at Grandview. But like, how was that shift for you? And then what other colleges were you considering?
Yeah, so there wasn't a whole lot of colleges. You know, you had your like McKendree, you had your King. There was like another college that I was kind of looking at, but
because you wanted to stay in Iowa, that was important.
It wasn't important, but so pretty much what happened was I went on my visit, and I actually went to a practice with Angela Crinzy, who's the women's coach at Grandview, and that practice, I was excited. Though like my dad was like my main coach, I had other coaches throughout my high school, you know, wrestling for Team Iowa and going on like other teams and stuff. But the way that Crinzy walked through technique was very, very similar to how my dad did. So instantly I felt very connected, and I felt very comfortable in his practice room. And that was something that really encouraged me to go to Grandview as well. So I didn't care if I had to move across the country. I didn't care if it was in Iowa. I think I got lucky enough to stay in Iowa closer to home because I have a sister I mentioned earlier that's 10 years younger than me. So being able to stay within, 2 hours and being able to like still watch her grow up, I didn't realize how important that was to me until I stayed at Grandview. But Crinzy was always like, he's very easy to talk to. He's a Grandview alum. He knows, obviously, like the men's side has a lot of success. They have a very good mission, very good motto, and that's what he had, and that's kind of what I wanted in mind. It was a jump though because it was a first-year program. I didn't know who my workout partners were. The
lady of the first. You're the first lady.
Yeah, first lady. But it was hard because I was like, I'm committing to this school, and I might not even have any workout partners. So, but that was one thing that Crinzy did really well. He asked me, he was like, what do you need? And I don't even remember like the list I gave him, but I kind of talked to him about that, and he made it happen. He brought in some really good girls that all cherish our friendships and everything that the good and the bad that all my teammates put me through. And that kind of sounded bad, but like when I say like the bad that they put me through, like when they pounded me in the wrestling room, when they beat me, and all that stuff, like I'm forever blessed and thankful for my choice of Grandview. Everything.
Share with us a little bit about your kind of like your 4 years there, like your accomplishments in wrestling, and maybe some things that you took away from Grandview that you're applying now.
Yeah, so my freshman year was crazy. I had a very good season for what I would say in the most humbling way I can say. I was excited. I was ranked 6th in the nation, I think, and we were going into nationals, which is in Jamestown, North Dakota, and we drive 9 hours to get there. I make weight, and there's talk about that we're not going to return to school because of this virus going around, this illness going around. And we were in like North Dakota, and I was just like, okay, whatever, like we'll hear more about it when we get home. And as we're like sitting in there in the hotel, we get this text, and it's like, hey, everybody meet in this room, like we're gonna like have a team meeting. And Crinzy came in and said the national championships was canceled because of COVID. And that was like, I think I cried. I don't really remember. I'm a very like emotional person, but I think I cried because it was like we worked so hard and to put Grandview like on the map. Like we were ready, and then we didn't get it. And then I was lucky enough to get like a COVID All-American status because I was ranked top 6, but you know, then going into like the next year, it was, you know, kind of the same thing. Went to nationals, All-American, and then I don't know what happened that summer after my sophomore year, but when I came back my junior year, I stepped on the scale, and so I wrestled 109 my freshman and sophomore year. And my junior year, I came into preseason, and I was like 107. And I was like, I don't know what happened.
Too much training?
I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I like came in 107, and so in my head when like season came around, it was like I'm gonna go 101, and I went 101, and I had a really amazing year. I felt comfortable at 101. I was like, this is the weight class like that I need to be. At 109, like I'll be the first to admit I am not very strong. Never have been. Literally doesn't matter how much I lift, I'll just never be like as strong as all the other 109 pounders. But at 101, like I felt strong. It was like my weight class, and I felt good. And you know, I was ranked top 8 that year going into nationals too. And I was wrestling a girl in the blood rounds, and I had won the match. And then there was like a really like weird like situation. I don't even remember. It was like she went to throw me, and I like scooted. I don't remember. But I'd won the match. We're like standing in the circle, and they're about to like raise my hand, and then the other coach like threw in the block. And I'm like, okay, like whatever. Like that's what you do. You know, it's the blood rounds. Winner is going to All-American.
For those that don't know, throw on the block means?
Challenge. So the opposing coach threw in the block to challenge that last situation, just to make sure that the ref, you know, called the right points, etc. And I was like, okay, like whatever, just wait. And it was like taking forever. And I remember during the match, I wear contacts. I wear contacts, and I remember in that match I had lost both contacts, and I am pretty close to being blind, so I can't see anything that's going on. And I remember Allie Reagan was in my corner, and I could hear her just being like, hey, like just, you know, stay warm, like you don't know like what the situation is, just like stay calm, stay warm. And I couldn't see the scoreboard because I lost my contacts, and then all of a sudden I hear it was a girl from Southern Oregon. I hear the Southern Oregon crowd behind me going crazy. And I like look at Allie Reagan, and I just watched her. Although I couldn't see her face, I could watch her body like drop. And I lost the match. And that was breaking. Like I don't have any other words than just like heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I went and I like just sat in the tunnel. I took my shoes off, and I just remember being like, I'm done. Like this was so heartbreaking that I don't even want to come back for my senior year. Obviously I did, but I remember like that being so that took such a toll on me mentally. And that summer I really just kind of tried to focus on like falling in love with the sport again. And just doing what I needed to do to just like make sure that when I came in my senior year, I was mentally prepared to like come into the sport again. So I came back, and I, you know, remember my senior year, I was still ranked, you know, top 8. I don't really remember. I think I was like 5 or 6. And the girl that was ranked number 1, I had beat the previous year. So I was like, I'm there's your motivation right here. Like this is it. I am in. Like I'm running with every single girl in the top 8 right now. So I was like really excited. But I wasn't weighing 106 anymore. I can't really remember, but I remember like I was probably like 115
at preseason.
And so like I took nutrition. This was like the year I really got into like nutrition and like learning about like what our body needs, and also like, not to get a little TMI, but like what a woman's body needs.
Yeah.
So I was like really trying to educate myself here. I worked with Eakin out of Des Moines or Clive, and really like educated myself on everything that kind of goes into it. And I was doing like really well, and it was actually at Simpsons Open. I was like showed up and I was 0.5 over. And I had the worst week trying to make weight for the first time. And I was like, to get there and be a 0.5, I was like, no.
Yeah, that's like nothing. It's like.
Yeah. But Allie Reagan like put me through a little workout, and oh my gosh, I hated her right then and there, because it was just like.
Because nobody wants to work when you're already depleted.
Yeah, and I stepped on the scale and I was like 1.5 pounds under, and I was like, I like look at Allie and I was like, I'll never forgive you for this. I was like, my body was cramping. But I went and like first round, I had this girl that like I was ranked 5th and then she was ranked 6th.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow we ended up like first round.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what like the situation was, but it was just like, that is so annoying. And I just like felt like completely like my body was like cramping from like the weight cut, etc. I just like wasn't ready, but I was like, this is it, this is my year, etc. And I like went out and it was like a really, really great match. I won. Me and this girl had like always like,
you've wrestled her several times.
Several times throughout my the past like couple years. So like, and she's one of those girls that like, even though like I had beat her, like she was just a tough girl.
Yeah. What school is she from?
So Elena Sunland, I'll give her a little shout out, because now that we're not competing against each other, she was a really good wrestler. She wrestled at Iowa Westland. Is that the one that closed down?
Yep.
Yes. So that's where she was at. Obviously had a really great workout partner and amazing coaches. But she was like just like a tough wrestler. And even though like I had like wins on her, it was just like, oh my gosh, like just for how I physically feel right now, I just didn't want to wrestle her first match. But after wrestling her like that, I was like, I felt good. Like this is
That's
again,
good.
once
you got
again,
your gas back.
Yeah, right. And then of course, throughout the rest of the year, I was really, really, really struggling making 101 after that. Really, really, really tough. I was also experiencing a lot of like minor injuries because I was, cutting 15, 20 pounds. Yep. And it wasn't, I just want to say.
That's how I ruptured my bicep, because I was cutting weight and lifting around the same time.
Yep. And I just want to say, like, right now, it wasn't like my coach's fault. Like, they would have supported me whatever decision I wanted to make. But it was like, I had put so much pressure on myself to go 101, because I was like, I had a very successful year last year. Besides like the ending, like it was a very successful ending. I have beat the girl that is currently ranked number 1. Like, I feel the best at 101. Used to. And I had put that pressure on myself to where like I made it an obligation. I needed to go 101. So I kept trying and I kept trying, and then eventually I just started having some like health problems. I was really, really struggling with I actually like ended up finding out like I had a birth defect where like my like stomach is like small, like my small intestine or whatever is like smaller than the average, and then so like my body needs more rest and digest than it needs fight or flight. But when you're like cutting weight, I don't even like using the word cut weight. I like to say like when I'm trying to achieve my goal weight, I wasn't giving my body what it needed in its like rest and digest state or whatever. But it was really, really, really tough for me, because it was national duels in Louisville, Kentucky, and like our team had a possibility of winning it, and I was like, as I was trying to make weight, my body just like shut down on me. And it was the day of weigh-ins, and I remember like calling my coach and being like, I'm gonna be honest, like I probably need to go to the hospital for how bad I feel right now. Like I don't know. And he Kinsey was super like, hey, do do what you need to do. Like, don't stress about like the team. Like, we'll figure it out. Take care of yourself. And that's what I did. And then after that, I was like, this year, my senior year, had been so much of like, I need to get down to weight. Mm-hmm. I wasn't even wrestling. Like, my season was, weight management. It wasn't wrestling management. Like, and so I like went in and I like talked to him and I was like, I think I want to go 109. And he's in Quincy literally was like, I've been waiting for you to come in and talk to me about this, because I think that you're a good enough wrestler, you're a strong enough wrestler, and I think you'll have a lot of success at 109. And I went up, and I remember it was like the GV Open, and I was wrestling, and I was like, I forgot what it felt like to have energy and to love wrestling. But yeah, that's kind of that was a really, really tough situation, because going up my weight class, I was giving up my rankings. I was giving up my automatic spot to nationals.
So they don't give you any other pre-rank because you change the weight class?
So the GV Open was like really important for that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, like I lost to a girl that I probably shouldn't have had lost to. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, I guess. Yeah. But that didn't give me what I needed in the rankings at 109. But though it was really, really tough, so I didn't go to nationals my senior year, I'm okay with that. And I think like that was okay, because I ended my season still with my love of wrestling.
Yeah.
And I think if I would have, continued.
Well, that's the gift.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I gave an opportunity to one of my other teammates, to go. She has an amazing story. She might be somebody that might be cool for.
Sure, absolutely.
Jazz Alexander.
Let's go.
She obviously has had like a crazy experience, almost died in a car accident, had a baby, is a single mother, and is still wrestling. And she had the opportunity to go to nationals, and it was like just super awesome to watch her wrestle. And my whole entire team, like I was still like so proud of all of them and everything. So
yeah, it's like it's the journey, right? Yeah. And then when you get to like you were talking about the connection of like having the journey with other people, it's really neat too, because you're obviously an emotional person, and you absorb that from other people, and I'm sure people know that about you as well. Yeah, I'd love to have her on, so holler at her and tell her to come reach out, and we'll get her on the show and get her story. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. Sorry, that was
a
lot of talking.
Oh, that's okay. That's what you're here for. Everybody wants to learn about you and hear whatever you go through. When people hear this thing, they're gonna connect it to themselves and their children that are competing as well. So
yeah, love it.
So yeah, these opportunities moved you into your forward process now, coaching at Sim. So what's your plan? What's going to happen? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
What do we look forward to?
I say keep your eye out for Storm Wrestling right now, because we have such a huge incoming freshman class that I think is going to rock it. Though they had like a small returning class coming back. I don't know the exact number, but I think like 7 girls returning. We're bringing in like 20 some girls onto the team, and they're solid. And I love how Jeff recruits, because he's not just recruiting girls, that know what they're doing, that are coachable, but they're also girls that have the mentality that you would want on like a winning team. Yeah. But my goal is to come on to this team and show that these girls that I'm here for them, not just on the mat, but in life. I want to, keep a fine line. Obviously, like I'm your coach. I'm a professional, but also you can talk to me. Mm-hmm. You can if you are struggling with weight, you can come and talk to me, and I'm not going to be mad at you or anything like that. I want to encourage these girls that there's more to life than just wrestling, mm-hmm. but wrestling is going to help them so much in life. So yeah, that's kind of my goal, is just letting these girls know that I'm not just a coach, but I'm a fan of everything that they're doing in education and in their relationships and in their future careers, and especially obviously on the mat as well.
That's cool. You're building I can't wait to see the culture you're going to build over there, working underneath Jeff McGinnis and having your own team these ladies that are going to be out there making impacts in the world. That's awesome.
Excited.
Yeah, you got a great opportunity ahead of you. I'm just super excited to see what that's going to result in. So I have 3 questions for you. So I reached out to some people that are grapplers, wrestlers, coaches, and just, hey, what questions would you have of her?
Yeah.
You know, obviously we get short blip of your life through social media or whatever else, but like we've gotten to know you as a person now. So none of these questions are going to be more impactful than what they thought.
Perfect.
So this first question is from Sam or Samantha. She says she wants to know what can the lessons learned from wrestling teach a young woman?
Yeah. So I will say wrestling, especially as for women, and just any type of wrestler, is wrestling has taught me that my threshold is so much bigger than what I thought. What I am capable of doing is so much more than what my brain thinks I'm capable of doing. So you can do that 1 more minute. You can do the 1 extra push-up. You can do the 1 more sit-up. You can go into overtime. You can do anything when you really put your mind to it. But that's the challenge, is getting over that mental hump and telling yourself that you can do it. And I think that's exactly what women's wrestling teaches you, is that you are capable of doing it. You just have to tell yourself, and you have to prove yourself that you can. And that's not just on the mat. That's in everything. That's in school. That you can get the A on the exam if you put your mind to it. You can have a healthy relationship if you put your heart into it. You can be a successful mother. You can do anything that you want to be, and anything that you want to do. But yeah.
Awesome.
That's what I would say.
Okay. The next question is from Jennifer. She wants to know, is there anything specific that keeps you disciplined when you're not motivated?
That's good. Consistency. Motivation will take you far, but it'll only get you so far. Consistency. Getting up on the days that you don't want to. Putting in the work on the days that you don't want to is what's gonna close that gap between you and anybody else. One thing that I coached at Fargo camp this weekend, and one thing that I offered to the girls is something that I call 1%. And what I say to those girls is, yeah, you're at Fargo camp, but guess what? Every girl at Fargo is also at a Fargo camp.
They're at Fargo camp too. Yeah.
They're also training. You know what? Yeah, you completed today's practice, but guess what? Everybody in this room just completed practice. If you want to be 1% better than your opponent, then come and do my 1%. And how I do it is, you have to agree. You have to stand on the line or stand wherever I want you, and you have to agree to complete my 1% before you can leave. And what my 1% is like an extra conditioning, an extra workout. And it's normally like a little thing that like you complete on your own. But how it is you come on and you agree to my 1% before you can leave. And that's, staying consistent and doing the little bit more than what you want to do is what's going to take you far in life. Because not everybody wants to, wrestling's tough and it's tiring and it's exhausting and you're sore and you're hurting. But I think just realizing that so is everybody else. Everybody's hurting, everybody's sore. But you have to stay consistent with what you're doing, and you have to do the little bit more, the littles, in everything, not just wrestling, in school, in your relationships, and even, around your house.
Yeah, motivation is like the wave. It goes up and down.
Yeah.
Consistency is the goal.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, here is a question from Coach Brown. He's the Norwalk head coach. He wants to know, this might be a 2-part question, actually. This is a really good question. Do you see other things girls struggle with in life that maybe you've encountered or not encountered because you're a wrestler? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think women in general, or on average, struggle with confidence, self-confidence. And I do feel like I'm a confident person, it's there every single day in the back of my head. It's like, am I good enough? You know? And that's exactly what it is. It is self-talk. It's how you look at yourself. It's how you talk about yourself. It's how you talk to yourself. So I think that's probably something that, you know, girls do struggle with, especially at the high school level. Confidence, not just on the mat, but as a person, you know, as they're walking in the halls of school. And I would just encourage them is, you know, you need to talk to them the way that you want them to talk to themselves. You need to, you know, use words of affirmation. You have to, you know, explain to these girls that they're capable of anything and everything if they believe that they're capable of doing it. So that's what I would say is confidence in yourself. And I obviously can't speak for guys, but I feel like that's just like society in general.
Sure.
But I do know that women on average probably, on average, like, this is me saying it.
That's your perspective.
My perspective.
We got you.
Yeah, thank you. We probably do struggle with it a little bit more, just because I feel like social media and society puts so much pressure on girls. And I think just what I would give advice, if I had to give advice to the coach, I would just say to let them know that you believe in them, even when they don't believe in themselves.
So, beyond affirming words for oneself, girls that aren't wrestling, that are struggling with self-confidence, especially in high school, you know, about, like I was telling you about 13-year-old girl starts changing just like the 13-year-old boy starts changing, right? Like, and they start beginning, you know, internalizing self-conscious things, right? And do you believe that wrestling, as it opens up and expands more in the state or across the United States and across the world, will girls benefit from trying wrestling and completing a season?
Yes, 100%. I obviously I'm a little biased, but like I said before, wrestling as the most common quote of all time, Dan Gable, once you wrestle, everything else in life is easy, or, you know, or whatever that quote is. I believe in that 100%. I think, you know, putting yourself on the mat in a position to be humbled
and be vulnerable.
You know, once you do that, you can step off and you can be like, I did that. Win or loss, I put myself in that position to you know, to be vulnerable, to be humbled in an experience. But yeah, I would just say that it's, I mean, like, using a lot of like really cliche like quotes here, but wrestling's not just a sport, it's a lifestyle. It teaches you so much more than just on the mat. You know, when you put yourself on the mat in a singlet, in a vulnerable position, you're going to feel a little bit more confident to stand in front of your class and give a presentation. Yeah. You know, you're going to, it teaches you little things like that. And I'm kind of losing my thoughts a little bit, but I think every single person in the world can benefit from wrestling, even if it's a match, or even if it's just going to practice. Yeah. You know, realizing it's tough, but, you know, like when you're like doing live or doing whatever, and coach says one more, and then you finish it, and then he goes, okay, last one, and then you finish it, and he goes, okay, now you're in overtime, let's go, and you do another. And 3 sets ago, I thought I couldn't do another one. Yeah. And you complete it. Yeah. And you realize you can. So yeah, that's what I would think, that Even if you're not a wrestler and you're thinking about it, I think that it'd be beneficial to even go in and put yourself in a position where you're trying something new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like mountaineering, climbing mountains.
Yeah. That's cool.
And I always say that the mountain reveals you. You know, it's not the other way around.
That's
you know,
cool.
and I think wrestling's like that too. I think you like, even if you just go out for the season or if you don't compete, like you're in the practice room, like it humbles you. It like speaks to you, you know, it lets you know who you are. It doesn't allow you to lie.
Yeah.
So
that's true. I like that.
Any other shout outs you want to give out before we close up shop, or anything you want to send a message to anybody out there?
Yeah, I guess I would just say, don't let anybody talk bad on you, even yourself. You know, like I said, when I started wrestling, I didn't think I was going to be a state champion, and I went on to win a state title.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think I was going to have the opportunity to wrestle in college, and I went and All-American in college. I didn't know that I'd have the opportunity to coach college, and here I am coaching at Simpson. So I would just say, don't ever limit yourself, because I've said it like 100 times probably, but you are so much more capable of doing something than you think you are. But yeah, that would be like my one word of advice to anybody.
Awesome.
Dream big, dream huge. Shoot for the stars, land on the moon.
Yeah. Congratulations on all your success.
Thank you.
I wish you the best in your relationship and your future at Simpson with your team and your coaching staff and your girls and, you know, your compiled relationships and the people that you're influencing and your connection with God. I wish you all the best, and God bless. Thanks for coming on, Emma.
Thank you.